Peter Tosh, Don't Look Back. That was Jules's suggestion for this International Reggae Day. Thank you very much for all of your reggae suggestions. I love that you all love, or many of you clearly love, some reggae. Now, earlier you heard from Justin Fimmel, who was sharing some of his experience since deciding to live an alcohol-free lifestyle for around the last 18 months or so. And now we are into Dry July. It's a month-long charity event encouraging people to go without alcohol for the month whilst raising funds for those fighting cancer. And now you might be starting Dry July today or considering trying to perhaps reduce your alcohol consumption. So if that's something that you are working towards, let's chat more about it with psychology consultant Dr. Jo Lukens.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we know people drink alcohol for lots of different reasons, but for some people it's actually something that helps them to cope with other things that are happening in their lives. So whether that be stress or anxiety, they might be going through some emotional pain or discomfort. And what it seems to do for a lot of people is provide that temporary relief, both in terms of physically the effects that alcohol has on people, but also it might take you away from your activities to go and have the glass of wine. Now, whether that be because you go to a pub or a club or something like that, or you're having it at home, but it's also giving you that time away from what you're doing. So the challenge with it, of course, is that it's not addressing the underlying issue, and long-term can lead to problems. But in that moment while it's happening, for people, it's providing some short-term relief.
Yeah, the number of times I've heard people say something along the lines of, I need a drink.
Yes.
And I wonder if that's necessarily true, if it's just a part of our culture that we say those things.
Yes, and what I'm hearing them say in that moment is, I've been through some stress, I'm not coping, I need something to make me feel better.
Yeah.
And then we connect the dots and go, aha, that's in a glass.
Is that, maybe it's just because we don't want to admit that we need help.
Yes.
It's a call to help. What are some of the signs, though, that maybe somebody might be using alcohol as a crutch?
Like you were just saying, if you're drinking it through the perspective of this is going to help me to relax, or this is going to make me feel better, this is going to make those uncomfortable emotions go away. If we notice that the alcohol consumption has increased over time, perhaps people are feeling anxious without having alcohol, or maybe they're even struggling to not have one, that temptation to have one at home, and then feeling like you can't stop yourself from doing that. So those are all signs that maybe it's worthy paying a little bit more attention to your alcohol consumption.
Today is the first day of Dry July, so people probably are at the very early stages of hopefully not having a drink so far this morning. Can initiatives like Dry July help people reassess their relationship with alcohol, do you think?
I think that's one of the real benefits of these kinds of community initiatives and social initiatives is, as much as anything, what it does is it gets us to self-reflect and to think about our habits, because I'm always saying to people that habits are great because they save us from having to think, and habits are terrible because they save us from having to think.
Yeah,
So the nice thing with these kinds of initiatives, and there are many of them, and they're not all about alcohol, but it does, for those that participate, cause you to stop and to be aware of your behaviours, to think about your habits. And a month is long enough that you'll start to potentially notice changes if alcohol is a regular part of your life, and then you stop it. So then you can look at it through a more critical lens, I guess, and decide if you want to make any long-term changes and whether that's going to be something that will be helpful for you.
Yeah, as the month progresses, you can see how you're feeling, like if you're feeling better or if you're feeling like, oh gosh, I'm missing this far too much. Like it could be a real call.
It really could. And things like what, particularly with alcohol, and because, like you say, it's more often happening in the evening, how do you feel in the morning when you wake up? What impact do you think it might be having on your sleeps, for example? So we know for many people that it does. So it's almost like a little science experiment, if you like, to test it for the month, to see how that goes, what that looks like, but help you to understand what your relationship with alcohol is like.
Yeah.